The Carter Empire, inside the $3.5 billion architecture Forbes just confirmed. Now, when it comes to the music industry, as we have always known it, I hope every record label, every booking agent, every middleman who has fed off an artist's gross for the last 50 years is ready, because the ghost they have been pretending did not exist has finally stepped fully into the light, and the Carters have officially crossed a line that almost nobody in modern entertainment has ever crossed, and we just received every single piece of confirmation that anyone could ever ask for on why this changes the entire conversation about celebrity wealth forever. So now, before we go any deeper into this, do me one favor, drop a like, smash that subscribe, and really push that like button so the algorithm carries this breakdown to every single person who still thinks a billion-dollar artist and a billion-dollar empire are the same thing, because they are not. And once you see what we are about to lay out, you will understand exactly why the gap between the two is the most important number in this entire industry. Because in December of 2025, Forbes did something it had only done 4 times before in the history of recorded music. They added a name to the billionaire musicians list, and that name was Beyoncé Knowles Carter. Her husband, Sean Carter, more famously stamped into history as JayZ, has been parked on that list for years already. And now, according to the January 2026 Forbes valuation update, his personal net worth sits at roughly $2.5 billion, hers at roughly $1 billion, and the combined Carter household is valued at approximately $3.5 billion in total. That makes them, by a margin most people genuinely do not understand, the single wealthiest couple in the entire entertainment industry. Full stop, no debate, no caveat, no honorable mention. But here's where almost every single news outlet, every magazine cover, every breathless headline gets the story completely wrong. Because the headline number is not the story at all. The total is the easy part. The total is the part that fits in a tweet. The interesting part, the part that almost nobody is willing to walk you through line by line, is the architecture underneath that total. Because what Beyoncé and Jay-Z have quietly assembled over the last 15 years is something genuinely rare, something almost surgical, a vertically integrated ownership stack across 2 parallel careers, in which nearly every single dollar of revenue flows through entities that they personally control before it ever touches an outside intermediary. And the moment you understand that one sentence, you understand why this empire does not behave like any other celebrity fortune in modern history. So buckle in, because this is the full breakdown of how the Carter Empire is actually engineered. The production company Beyoncé built that captures her own tour revenue, the spirits brands Jay-Z sold for hundreds of millions while still keeping the upside, the real estate portfolio worth north of $350 million, the masters, the venture investments, the single organizing principle that has secretly connected every business decision these two have made for 15 straight years. Most artists at their level would have 1 or 2 of these pieces. The Carters have every single one of them. And once you understand why, you are going to walk away with a model of celebrity wealth that almost nobody else on the planet has ever managed to execute at this scale. Chapter 1. Parkwood Entertainment, the Silent Engine. Here's the truth nobody at the major labels wants you to repeat. The single most important business decision of Beyoncé's entire career was not a song, not a tour, not an album. It was a piece of paperwork filed in 2010, and that piece of paperwork created Parkwood Entertainment. The name comes from a street she lived on as a little girl in Houston, Texas. According to extensive business profiles published across Forbes, Bloomberg, and the Wall Street Journal, Parkwood is not, and I cannot stress this enough, a vanity label with her name slapped on the door. It is a fully vertically integrated entertainment operation that controls production, distribution, touring infrastructure, merchandising, film and television development, brand partnerships, and creative direction. All under one roof, all under her name, all on her balance sheet. And to understand why that structure matters in real financial terms, you have to first understand what almost every other artist in her tier does instead. In a standard major label arrangement, the artist signs a recording contract. The label fronts the recording costs, the marketing, the promotion, and in return, the label owns the master recordings and writes the artist a royalty check on a percentage. Touring gets routed through a separate booking agency that skims 10 to 15% off the top of the gross. Merchandise gets licensed out to a third party. Film and television rights get negotiated through yet another set of attorneys at yet another counterparty. Every revenue stream flows through a different middleman. And every middleman takes their cut. What Parkwood quietly did was take every one of those functions, every one of those revenue streams, and pull them all inside a single entity that Beyoncé herself owns. When her tour books a stadium, the production company in that room is Parkwood. When merch moves, the rights are administered by Parkwood. When a concert film is produced, Parkwood is the production company of record. The entire intermediation chain that drains value out of a typical artist's earnings has, wherever it could be, been engineered out of her business model. That is the foundation. That is the operating system. That is the silent engine that powers everything you are about to hear. Chapter 2. The tour, the gross, and the part no headline ever explains. The cleanest, sharpest demonstration of how the Parkwood machine actually prints money was the Renaissance World Tour. The tour ran from May through October of 2023, 56 shows across North America and Europe, and according to Pollstar and Billboard, it grossed approximately $580 million in raw ticket revenue. By gross alone, it sits among the highest-earning tours ever staged by a solo female artist in recorded history. Then came the Cowboy Carter Tour in 2025, grossing approximately $407 million across 32 shows, more than 1.5 million tickets sold, and according to Billboard, that tour officially became the highest-grossing country tour ever mounted on this planet. Those are the headline numbers. Those are the numbers every outlet repeats. The mechanics underneath those numbers are what nobody bothers to translate. Because in a normal touring arrangement, the artist's share of that gross gets shaved down dramatically before it ever lands in their bank account. Promoters take a piece. Production companies that build the stage, fly the lighting, manage the logistics, they take a piece. Booking agents take 10%. Managers take 15 to 20%. By the time a $500 million gross has been processed through that gauntlet of layers, the actual net to the artist is, well, significantly compressed. The Parkwood structure rewrites that entire equation. According to industry analysis published across Variety and Billboard, Beyoncé self-produces her tours through Parkwood, which means the production entity collecting the second-largest slice of tour revenue is the entity she owns. The intermediation loop closes inside her own house. This is the difference between participating in an industry and quietly owning the industry. Participating means you take home a percentage of someone else's pie. Owning means the entire pie passes across your kitchen table first, and any percentage you pay outward is one you negotiated from a seat of structural leverage. That is the Parkwood Premium, and it compounds every single tour cycle she runs. Watch this. Every cycle, every show, every shirt, every stream of concert footage, all of it stacks back into the same balance sheet. That is what nobody on a typical magazine cover is willing to explain. Chapter 3. The Masters, the Quiet Weapon. Now here is the conversation that almost nobody in the celebrity wealth space ever runs honestly. The conversation about who actually owns the master recordings. We have covered this exact wound before. We covered it in the Taylor Swift breakdown, where the artist watched her entire early catalog get sold off to a third party against her will and had to literally re-record every album to claw back ownership. We covered it again with Justin Bieber, where the artist parted with his entire catalog to Hypnosis for north of $200 million during a cash flow squeeze. Beyoncé's situation, structurally, is in a completely different universe. According to multiple music industry trade publications, Beyoncé negotiated ownership of her own master recordings as her career matured through Sony Music's Columbia Records imprint. The exact terms of her present arrangement remain private, but what is publicly clear is that her catalog continues to generate streaming income, sync licensing income, and publishing royalties that flow through Parkwood and the ownership entities she controls, not through a third party that scooped up the rights at a discount during somebody else's bad moment. That is the discipline that puts her wealth in a separate weight class from her peers. Royalty income on a catalog of her commercial scale is not pocket change. It is, in the cleanest language of personal finance, passive income produced by an asset she actually owns. Every stream, every film placement, every advertisement sync, every karaoke license, every wedding montage on cable, every coffee shop playlist, every single one of them is a microtransaction depositing into an account with her name on it. Across 15 years at her commercial elevation, the cumulative value of that ownership is comfortably in the hundreds of millions of dollars. And, crucially, it does not require her to perform a single new note. The asset compounds while she releases music this year. The asset compounds while you sleep. The asset compounds while you are watching this video. Chapter 4. Ivy Park and the lesson nobody wants to teach. Now, not every move in the Carter playbook has hit. In 2019, Beyoncé entered into a multi-year partnership with Adidas to relaunch her activewear line, Ivy Park. According to the Wall Street Journal, she was guaranteed approximately $20 million per year, regardless of how the brand actually performed. Adidas projected the line would generate $250 million in sales by 2022. The actual sales figure that year landed at roughly $40 million. According to Wall Street Journal reporting, later confirmed by The Hollywood Reporter, that miss represented more than a $200 million shortfall against internal projections. In March of 2023, the two parties agreed to mutually walk away. And here, right here, is where the architecture quietly reveals itself again. For Adidas, the failed partnership was a balance sheet wound. They had to keep paying the guaranteed annual fees regardless of how the line moved, they ate the marketing spend, they ate the inventory build-out, and they walked away holding hundreds of millions of dollars in unsold product. For Beyoncé, the loss looked nothing like that. She had already collected every guaranteed payment that came due during the partnership. And, according to The Hollywood Reporter, when the partnership officially ended, she walked out the door with the Ivy Park brand name itself still in her name, ready to be redeployed whenever and however she chose. Cash collected, brand control retained. The institutional partner ate the inventory and the marketing risk. The upside, wherever it materialized, was shared. The intellectual property went home with the artist. That is what a properly negotiated brand deal looks like at her elevation. The downside lives on somebody else's balance sheet. The asset lives on yours. And that, by the way, is also exactly why she reportedly walked straight out of an early Reebok pitch meeting back in 2019 over concerns about the room itself. According to coverage at the time, she treated that meeting as a litmus test, and the test failed, and she walked. Same instinct, same discipline, same firewall. Do not enter into a partnership where the institutional partner does not understand exactly what you are protecting. Chapter 5. The Parallel Empire on the Other Side of the Household. The Carter wealth was never built on a single career. It was built on two parallel careers, two parallel architectures operating in different industries, generating returns that compound completely independently of one another. And JayZ's portfolio, well, his portfolio is arguably the most studied case study in modern hip-hop entrepreneurship, and for very good reason. In 1999, he and Damon Dash launched the clothing label Rocawear. At its peak, according to Forbes coverage at that time, Rocawear was clearing $350 to $450 million in annual revenue. In 2007, he sold the brand to Iconix Brand Group for $204 million, retaining marketing oversight rights. In 2019, he repurchased the underlying intellectual property rights for $15 million. That is a sell high, buy low, repurchase your own name back at a fraction of the price sequence. And let me be very clear, almost nobody in any industry on earth ever executes that move successfully. The spirits portfolio follows the exact same blueprint. According to Bloomberg and the Wall Street Journal, JayZ partnered with Bacardi on the cognac brand Douce and built the champagne brand Armand de Brignac. In 2021, LVMH, the most powerful luxury house on the planet, acquired a 50% stake in Armand de Brignac, with industry trade press valuing the brand in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Then there was Tidal, the streaming platform he acquired and rebranded in 2015, which was later sold to Block, formerly Square, in 2021, with the deal reported across the financial press at approximately $302 million. Beyond the operating businesses, the venture portfolio is a story by itself. According to Bloomberg, an early $2 million bet on Uber matured into a position later valued at approximately $70 million. He holds equity in Block. His personal art collection, anchored by works from Jean-Michel Basquiat, has been valued at approximately $70 million on its own. And then there is the crown jewel, Roc Nation, the entertainment company he founded in 2008, which today operates across music management, sports representation, publishing, and concert promotion. The company entered a partnership with the National Football League in 2019 as the league's official live music entertainment strategist. By every operational metric that actually matters, Roc Nation today is one of the most influential talent and entertainment companies on the planet. Same discipline, same instinct, build, control, exit at peak, repurchase the intellectual property when the market mispricing it, and stack it into the next cycle. That is the parallel empire, and that is the second engine running underneath this household. Chapter 6. The reveal almost every outlet missed. This right here is the part of the Carter wealth story that almost every magazine cover, every cable segment, every casual celebrity write-up sails right past. The pop framing treats Beyoncé and Jay-Z as two extraordinarily successful entertainers who happen to be married to each other. That framing is incomplete to the point of being misleading. The financial reality is that their two architectures have been deliberately engineered to function as one single integrated wealth structure, operating across two careers and multiple industries simultaneously. Beyoncé owns Parkwood. JayZ owns Roc Nation. These are not redundant entities competing for the same dollar. They are complementary engines. Parkwood is built to maximize an artist's capture of her own income across music, touring, film, and brand. Roc Nation is built to operate as an institutional player inside the wider entertainment economy, representing other artists and athletes, partnering with leagues, sitting on the publishing and management side of the table. Put them next to each other and they cover both sides of the entire entertainment industry, the producer side and the platform side, the artist's seat and the institution's seat, the talent's leverage and the gatekeeper's leverage, in the same household. The real estate portfolio operates on the exact same logic. According to public real estate records and reporting in Architectural Digest, the Carters hold approximately $350 million in real estate, including an $88 million Bel Air estate, a $200 million Malibu compound acquired in 2023, and additional positions in the Hamptons, in New Orleans, and a New York penthouse. These are not, despite how the tabloids love to frame them, simple lifestyle splurges. They are appreciating positions parked in the strongest residential markets in the United States, held through entities structured for long horizon appreciation, not quick flip turnover. This is what the architecture looks like when it actually works. Operating businesses producing top-line revenue. Asset positions compounding through appreciation. Investment portfolios diversifying the exposure. Ownership structures ensuring every single revenue stream passes through entities the principals personally control. The $3.5 billion combined figure is not the achievement. The architecture that printed it, the architecture that keeps printing whether one spouse is touring or not, is the achievement. The number is the smoke. The system is the fire. Chapter 7. The pattern that connects every breakdown we have ever done. There is a much bigger lesson buried inside this story, and it stitches directly into every other celebrity wealth deep dive we have walked through on this channel. We covered Taylor Swift, who lost control of her original masters and then quietly rebuilt her ownership architecture by re-recording her entire catalog, while simultaneously negotiating a non-recoupable Spotify clause that now pays out across her entire industry. We covered Justin Bieber, who handed his catalog to Hypnosis during a cash flow squeeze, then quietly restructured his career to negotiate his own Coachella deal without a manager and without an agent in the room. We covered Ryan Reynolds, who built a holding company architecture and exited Aviation Gin and Mint Mobile for combined enterprise values pushing $2 billion. Each of those stories is a different rendering of the same financial truth. Ownership is more durable than income. Equity compounds. Royalties compound. Brand intellectual property compounds. Cash compensation, no matter how enormous the check, does not compound the same way once it is spent. Beyoncé and Jay-Z have, quietly and methodically, built the most complete version of that single principle in modern entertainment. Not because they earned more than their peers. Plenty of artists in their generational cohort have grossed at the same level. But because almost every dollar they grossed was deliberately routed through entities they owned into asset positions that compound, anchored by intellectual property that retains residual value indefinitely. That is the difference. That is the entire difference. And it is not a small one. The takeaway for any creator in the modern economy is the same takeaway we have repeated across this entire series. Build the operating businesses. Negotiate ownership instead of fees wherever the deal permits it. Structure agreements so the downside sits on the institution's balance sheet and the upside compounds on yours. And, critically, integrate across spouses, across industries, and across asset classes, so that no single revenue stream alone ever decides the financial trajectory of the household. So now, with all of that said, let me close it cleanly. The next time a magazine cover tries to flash a $3.5 billion number at you and pretend that the number itself is the story, remember what you just heard. Because the number is never the story. The system underneath the number is. The Carter Empire is a household that operates more like a multi-industry conglomerate than a celebrity marriage. It is a holding structure with a touring division, a publishing division, a spirits division, a real estate division, a venture division, and a sports and entertainment division, each running on its own engine, each compounding on its own clock, each insulated from the others. And in 2026, the architecture they engineered across 2 parallel careers, 2 production companies, 3 industries, and dozens of underlying assets is generating returns that no single record contract, no single brand deal, no single touring agreement could ever produce on its own. $3.5 billion is not the headline. The system that produced it is. And if you want to keep seeing breakdowns like this one, the kind that strips a celebrity fortune all the way down to the contracts beneath the brands and the valuations beneath the names, the kind that shows you the financial mechanics that decide which businesses become institutions and which ones quietly stay personal projects, then do me one last favor. Hit subscribe, drop a like, push the bell, because the difference between a celebrity who is rich and a celebrity who builds an actual institution is the exact same difference between a peak income year and a portfolio that compounds whether you ever work another day in your life. Beyoncé and Jay-Z built both. And right now, in the middle of 2026, the machine they engineered is still running, still compounding, still printing, and almost nobody is telling you how. Now you know. So the next time somebody waves a billionaire headline in your face, ask the only question that ever actually matters. Where does the money flow before it ever leaves the room? Because that, and only that, is the difference between being on a list and quietly building the list itself, brick by brick, contract by contract, asset by asset, until the entire industry is forced to look up and call you what you have already silently become.